All right, welcome to another episode of Investing with Quito. My co-host here, Jeremy. So,
Hey,
Jeremy, how are you today?
I'm great. Busy, but good and having a good day working on stuff, but excited to talk with you and talk about business and real estate and entrepreneurship. So,
Awesome. Yeah, I love our time together because it's good to, because you're a busy guy, right? I mean, you got a
mhm.
full-time, you got a full-time job, you got a business that you're running, you're also going to school. So, with that, let me, let's kind of jump in with what your day looks like and how you manage all that because I mean, you're out there making things happen. And I think, some people think that, oh, because I got a job, it kind of prevents me from doing the other things that I want to do, right? But I
Mhm.
mean, you're an example of, what's possible. You're a guy that has a full-time job, you have a business, you have a family, you're going to school. Like how do you manage all that?
That's a great question. I love that question. So yeah, I work full time at a church. So I work full time in ministry and do those things, all the responsibilities that come with that. I also teach part time at a school here, 2 classes a week. And then, like you said, I own a business, and we recently had 2 locations, and so running that with employees, with payroll, with doing events, and trying to organize the business. And I'm also in a master's program that I'll graduate in May. So now I'm ramping up for like all the homework due and the final projects and the requirements for doing that. And we have 2 kids, two kids under 2. So we're busy. We're doing the thing. We also have two rentals, right? So we're doing the thing, and we're actively looking for more things. So probably the one thing that is helpful for me to do all those things is to time block. I really am diligent with making sure I spend this much time doing this thing, and I make sure I set a time this time for doing this thing. So really controlling your schedule is probably a big thing. I think a lot of people miss their time and mismanage their time. Even though we all have the same time during the day, we really mismanage our time. And so having a really tight schedule, but with some margins in there, so in case emergencies or things come up, you can handle that. So I think time blocking is really crucial, and having a schedule that runs your day rather than you just trying to do things. Another big one for me is lists of doing things and to do. So I love the app Todoist. Todoist is a great free app you can use. And so it's just great when I have ideas of like, oh, I got to do this. So instead of just thinking that and then I forget about it and don't do it later, I put it on my to-do list, and then it's saved into an inbox. So I get it off my brain onto something physical. And then I can see that later the day, or I'm organizing my day of what do I have to do today. I can place that with a specific due date and certain things to do into a certain project. So you can break it up really well. You can actually have like, oh, hey, this is due today. So, hey, a paper's due today. So I got to make sure I do a paper tonight. And it takes about an hour to do it. Um, so having a list and like a to-do list with dates is really, really helpful to try to just organize yourself so you don't have to just keep it all up here. Because then for me, I just lose it, right? Like
Hmm.
it will just go away if I forget. And then one thing is a lot of delegation. I think as entrepreneurs, one of our downfalls is that we like to do everything ourselves. At
Hmm.
least we like to do it because we're leaders. We like to push the boundaries of things, and so we have to be really good at delegating things. So we try to hire really good employees who we can trust, who we can give and hand off things that we can do. I try to delegate stuff to other people as much as I can that is efficient, even if I know that they're not going to do it as well as me. I know that they'll get it done fairly well, and so to delegate things and to do those well. And then lastly is I think if people are in a season where like you're just super busy and you keep doing those things, you got to learn how to always get a little bit better every single day. And I think that gets missed because if you're growing, you're failing forward and you're learning new things, and you have to learn how to do them better, or else you just continue to do the same things over and over again without any progress of doing those things better and more efficiently. So, and that just takes time. So 3 years ago, when I'm in my master's program, it would take me a long time to write a paper. And now it takes me about an hour to write a page or two paper that's due. And I do it the night before, or like the day of, an hour before it's due. And that's just my schedule, but also you just get better at that. So there's just
Hmm.
something that comes with effectiveness and efficiency. Like the more you work on getting a little bit better each and every time, when something comes up, it doesn't take as long to do it next time. So I think that really helps with doing that. It just takes practice and that mindset of always getting a little bit better. So those are some tips that help, but
Mhm.
what have you found that's helpful? Because you've been doing this for a long time. You continue to get busy. So how do you continue to like organize your structure of the day to help
Yeah,
you
like
be more
for
efficient?
for me, I mean, I like what you said about time blocking, getting a to do list, and then always improving on what you're currently doing, right? And and for me, it's like you, I mean, I have like a chunk of time. I typically like to get up anywhere between 5 to 6 in the morning. I find that when you get up early in the morning, you have more time to yourself, right? And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
a lot of that time is more like self-reflection, where I'm praying, meditating, or just kind of, you know, just like my me time. So when I get up, whether that's 30 minutes or an hour of that day, I kind of make sure that's for me. um for me, I have like I have children. I have 3 kids, right? So getting
Hmm.
them, so usually, I take them to school. So my schedule is, when I get up, I do my thing, then I get ready to get them to school, right? So once I drop them off at school, and I typically, like, for me, like, my appointments, I usually try to set them up like in the afternoons, because between like 8:30, 11 o'clock, that's me, like, um following up on my phone calls, trying to figure out what needs to be done, checking up with my with my team members, seeing where they're at. Hey, where are we at? What are we doing? How's things are going? Um, and then uh after my when I get that, all that stuff, because you don't want to, like, for me, I try not to do too much administrative stuff. So it's one thing to, like, work on your business and in your business, right? But then
Hmm.
you work in
Hmm.
it, like, oh man, but you also got to make time to plan things for your business. What do you want to do? How you want to grow your business,
Hmm.
right?
That's huge. Yep.
Yeah, that's huge. And then, by 3 o'clock, my kids are home. So I like to be home by 3, so I can sit down. We usually have an early dinner. And if there are things that need to be done, I have from like 5 to 6 o'clock, maybe 7, depending. And that's kind of like my schedule, right? Just kind of prioritizing things. So I mean, like, you're busy. What's your typical day look like for you?
Yeah, I'm same as you. I get up early, so I try to get up. I have my alarm set at 4:45 in the morning, and I try to get up between like before 5, but usually it's like between 5 and 6, like you. And usually I'll get ready, I'll get going, read, study, or I'll go for a walk. I love to go for a walk in the morning to kind of get things jump started. I'll get like active, I'll get moving, I can think clearly and listen to things. And then I'll just get started, breakfast, shower, get out the door about 7:30, and I'll go to my office and take that time. Like you, I like the time block at first time in the morning so I can get some like deep, effective work done in those first time blocks, and then have more of my meetings and in the afternoon or after lunch or during lunch, like lunch meetings till about 3, and then 3:30, 3:45, I'll leave to go work out. So I like CrossFit. It helps you be mentally tough. It's awful, but it helps you be
Yes.
tougher. And then I try to take the rest of the evening off with my family until at least we put the kids to bed at 7:15.
Hmm.
And then from there, either we relax and hang out, or we work on homework or something like
Hmm.
that, or talk about, me and my wife talk about business, like, hey, what do they go today? How are the sales in the shop? What do we need to work on? What events do we have coming up? Do we need to think about? And we usually talk about those like over dinner, or we talk about those at night and try to just connect. So I guess it's not too busy, but like just being efficient, like taking phone calls on the drive, talking to people, voice the text while you're driving so you can text message people, or like sending out emails in the morning, or those kind of things, or double tasking, like multitasking, in the sense of like I'll be on a walk and I'll listen to a lecture for school, or I'll meet with someone while I'm doing some kind of homework, or double them up. So it's mostly just like effective with your time. And then
Hmm.
also I do find that if I don't rest, if I'm always going, it's going to be a hard rest of the week. So even like if there's so much to do still, it's important to rest, because then you actually get recharged for better work, more efficient work the next day.
Right. Yeah. Like you, I also, like on my drives, if I'm driving to an appointment, I'm listening to a podcast, right?
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
listening to whether it's business, whether it's you know, like mindset, right? Just listening. And lately, what it's been interesting, like and I love watching YouTube. So I'll kind of watch things that are like outside of the things that I would normally um do, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like just picking up like new skills, like maybe I'll learn about plumbing, even though I don't necessarily will actually do plumbing, but just to kind of learn stuff about, my rentals when things happen, or, you know, just so I can get a better understanding of those things, like the other day I was listening stuff about water pumps, and how to troubleshoot it, and things like that. It was like, you know, just so I can get some general idea of the mechanics and things for, that I would encounter, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
encountering stuff like, with plumbing or with the electric, just to get some kind of base understanding. And I'll do stuff like that. And it seems like lately I've been doing a lot of that. It's because, as you know, we had that big freeze, and it just wreaked havoc. It's like, oh man. It's like, okay, when things have finally settled down now, thank goodness. Like, oh man, or um, but so I'm going back. So, okay, well, let me learn about this. Let me learn about that. Let me learn
Mhm.
about furnace. Even though I'm not going to be taking apart any furnace, but just to get some general idea. Because because in one instance I had I'm not sure if we've talked about it last time, but one of my furnace went out and the blower motor went out,
Mhm.
right? And so we called a couple people, told them, the make and model, and because my maintenance guy is like, okay, yeah, it's definitely the blower motor. You need to get a new one. And so we call around, and they were saying, oh, you need to get it replaced, right? And it's like, and as well, how much in replacement? Like $3,500. Because it actually came in and told me need to replace. Like, man, that's my maintenance that I can, like, yeah, these are old. We can't get the parts anymore. So you have to replace it. $3,500, right? And then things were at the time it was cold. So I was like, I was so close to just forking out the money, but I thought, wait a minute,
Mhm.
you know what? I'll give them, something temporary for now, but give me a couple of days to figure this out. There's got to be. So I told my property manager, like, make some more phone calls, see if you could find somebody that can kind of come out, take a look at it, and see if they can fix it. Well, long story short, we found a company. They actually could get the parts ordered, and they can get it fixed.
Oh,
So
great.
from $3,500, because I just got the bill, to like $535.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
So so I guess in the lesson all that is like, take a step back and just make additional phone calls, right? Don't just go with the
Mhm.
first guy and say, oh man, this is bad. Just go, they always say, like, get a couple estimates, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and so that's that's what I did, and like save myself like $3,000, versus just going on. And and oh, the reason why I say that, just to say this, like, when you take time just to kind of learn things about just other things that you wouldn't normally do, it kind of
Mhm.
helps you like troubleshoot things, right? It's like, okay, wait a
Yeah.
minute, the blow motor, okay. I mean, somewhere in my mind after listening, because you just never know where you could use this information, right? So
Mhm.
that's the
Yeah.
things I always
Yeah.
continue to learn. And sometimes it's good to just learn things that's outside of what you would normally do, right? Just to get that broad perspective. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think with rentals, it forces you to think very tangibly because like if your dryer doesn't have heat, it's either two things, either it's blocked or like the heating element went out. Right.
mhm,
And so it's like, oh, I don't even know where to start. Well, all you have to do is just like open it up, start looking around, watch a YouTube video, and then you figure it
mhm,
out. So like rentals make things very tangible that you can just learn hands-on, which is great.
right.
And then another thing you said that was really helpful is that the book Atomic Habits or The Compound Effect. Those are
Mm,
great books. Like the little things you do every single day, like one podcast here, one new information here, one looking at one deal here, looking at one deal every single day, like those compound over time
right.
to really lead to a big, big difference. So like it saved you 3 grand and it can make you 20 grand learning how to do a new skill, right? Those kind of things do add up
Mhm.
to significant things over time.
Right. And you hit a point, talk about like doing things on a daily basis that compounds. And,
Hmm.
and when we talked about investing, right? It was like knowing your market, right? If
Hmm.
every day you're looking at Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com, whatever platform you're using, you're just kind of looking at properties. Pretty soon you're going to start to notice, okay, well, 3 bedrooms in this particular area, they're selling for $360,000. In this neighborhood, a 3 bedroom is selling for $460,000, right? So
Hmm.
as you
Hmm.
start to look at your market on a daily basis, you start to notice, right, what things are going for. And I'm used to do this with my wife. Well, we'll drive down the neighborhood and it's like, hey, guess how much this house, what would you think this neighborhood go for? And then typically, I mean, if you've been studying the market, I mean, we're usually within like, ten to $20,000 within what we think it
Hmm.
would be worth, right? And
Yeah.
so it's so important especially when you're investing to start to notice what things are going for. Just be be intentional about it, right? Like, hey, if I'm going to
Hmm.
invest in this neighborhood, let me be intentional and learn what homes are selling for in this neighborhood, what homes are renting for in this neighborhood, because then you're able to identify if a deal comes to you, right? It's like, hey, is this a good deal? Right? Okay. Um, I think we were just talking about your mom. She has some rentals. Her two
Hmm.
bedrooms renting out for like $900, right, for 2 bedroom,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I know because I have homes within that area. I mean, I'm easy getting $1,200, right? So that's that $300 difference, right? That's $3,600 a year. Well, but if you have multiple units and you had like 4 of those units that is under rented at $300 a month, and that's over
Hmm.
$12,000 a year that she can make just by
Yeah.
upping the rent, right? Because
Yeah.
so some important, and that's why too, even as a buyer, you see that someone's selling their property and they're saying, oh, they're selling it based on what they're getting for rents and things like that. So you're thinking, gosh, okay, well, I know rents, for 2 bedrooms should go for more. And if I do if you figure out my down payment and my interest rate, this is what my monthly payment's going to be, and I know I can get X, right? I was like, hey, well, then if this cash flow, then this might be a good deal worth making an offer in. So it's just understand the market, that compound effect where you're studying on a daily basis, like, okay, how much homes are selling for?
Hmm.
Because I know you have a business, right? So like when you're pricing,
Hmm.
like how do you determine what you're going to charge for your customers?
Great. We actually just talked about this last night on our walk. Me and my wife did. So what we do is look at the people who are our direct competitors. So for us, since we're an indoor playground, mostly directed towards kids 10 and under, we look at other places that have our same age focus and also places that have, let's just say, private parties. So we're thinking about like, okay, what do we charge for private parties? How can we do that better? How can we offer better service? And what's like the effective going rate in our town? So we look at other places around the state that are doing that kind of thing and see, okay, why are they charging that? What's the same thing? How do they charge? How do they structure that? And what do they get? So we have to look at a couple places. So one place is a way lower price for a private party, but the quality we frequently hear is not there for them. So we're like, okay, so even if we charge a lot more than them, we're often a better quality product and service than they are. And we looked at another place and it's like, okay, they're around the same, they're a little bit cheaper, but they get the same, they get a little bit more in certain things, but you don't get this. So for them, you get pizza and food with your service, but you don't get a private room to yourself. So like, okay, so what do we want to value? How do people value that more? And then also saying like, okay, so if we offer this, how much can we charge? What's the price for offering? So an idea is if we offer a private party, you rent out the whole area, you get plates, food provided, water and drinks, all of that. How much would that cost? And like we try to schedule that into like a 3-tier group of like, hey, here's the regular cost, we're gonna raise it to X. Here's the midterm cost, you get added benefits, and it's gonna be X. And we try to, have margins of 2 to 3X on that. And then same thing with like private party. We try to make it in a sense like too expensive, where it's like, okay, so like with right now for private parties, it's not like the most fun for us because it's always after hours. when you have a private party. So either it's between 6 to 8. So it's way past our bedtime. Our kids are grumpy. We have to hire someone to come in and do it. And so it's like we would just rather not have private parties truly. So then we price it at something and be like, either someone really, really wants this or it's going to deter them back into the normal party range. And some people do get it and we make a great profit. And some people just like, no, never mind. So
Mm-hmm.
we look at competition, our like try to make our stuff better at what it is, and then also just try to not try to outprice them, but just outbeat them in service, and also make sure we're in our niche because we're not going
Mm-hmm.
to be a private party for teenagers. That's not going to be our niche, and if we try to, we're going to fail, right? So we try
Mm-hmm.
to stay in our lane and try and make it the best we can in our specific area. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So I mean, like every day, I mean, you're figuring out what your competition is
Hmm.
uh is charging, right? And that's the same thing when you're dealing with real estate, right? You're saying, well, how much is home selling? How much is selling down the street? Similar homes, amenities, and so
Hmm.
you and the more you do that, you start to figure out, okay, well, this is how I can make money. And at the same time, too, when you have another opportunity to buy a business, right? And you see what they're charging. It's like, okay, well, I know they're undercharging and they got this. We can actually make it better.
Hmm.
And we can
Hmm.
actually, so then when you see an opportunity, you can like, okay, yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and buy this business. Or like when you were expanding on your second location, right?
Hmm.
Because you knew what your current existing model was doing, you're like, okay, well, when that opportunity came along for you, it's like, okay, well, you know what? There's things that we can do to make it worth more, than what we're actually going to pay for for the business, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The study informs your decision to be like, okay, there's opportunity here. I can make this happen. This is a good deal. So that works out like over time, consistently studying the market, seeing what it is. So, well, in your market here in Billings, like as a guy, for me, I want to look for deals that I'm mostly looking to acquire an acquisition on my side. And so, how do you find when you're studying and doing that, looking at the market and seeing how those things do? How do you look for deals, or say I want to look for deals that are little to no money down and seeking to rent them out and make at least $500 a month? Like, how do you then strategize to get those deals, and how do you find them?
Hmm. Great question. I think like in any investor, that's like part of the big things. Like, how do I find the deals, right? Like I know the strategy that I want to deploy, but how do I find it,
Hmm.
right? And then there's a couple different ways, and you know, like if you find a strategy, it's not good to like do multiple strategies at one time. It's like start out with one or two and see which one of those works, right? Like for example, what's worked well for us, right, is we pull up a list, right? And you can go online. There's some companies out there, whether that's PropStream or Listserv, and you punch in your criteria, right? So it's having a buy box, right? Like this is what I'm
Hmm.
looking for. And for us, it's like, okay, I'm looking for people who's owned their property 10 or more years, that have high equity and do not live in the property, right? So I'm targeting landlords or investors, right?
Hmm.
Because you just never know what season um, an investor is going to be, right? They could
Hmm.
be somebody that's like, man, they've been at it for over 30 plus years and now they want to exit the investing game and they just want to move south because we're in Montana and it gets cold up here and
Yeah.
it I've bought several properties from landlords who are moving south, right? I'm going to Arizona, right? I'm going to Vegas, wherever.
Hmm.
They want to be done. So I have my criteria, 10 plus years, high equity, and they don't live there, right? And so a strategy that worked for me is we write letters, right? So that's just one strategy, and I'll go through a couple other strategies that people
Hmm.
could deploy. But we write letters, and we basically send it out. And what's different about the letters is that we make it stand out. And it's not a letter that's being typed up, looking all fancy. It's actually a handwritten letter. It's just
Hmm.
handwritten. It says, hi, my name is, Quito. I'm a local investor in this area. Your property at 123 Main Street. was interested if you would ever consider selling it. If you are, please give me a call. Here's my number. Very basic, but what makes it stand out, it's written by hand. So my wife writes it. We used to have our kids do it, like, write the letters, and we send it out. We put an actual stamp in it, so it just goes through, and we actually get a pretty good open rate. So people open up and call. So that's one strategy. Hey, just writing out letters, right? Handwritten letters.
Handwritten letters. Okay.
Yeah, or some people send postcards, but we've done that too. But ultimately, we decided, you know what, we get a better response rate with our letters, and because when we did postcards, we did a blast. I mean, we would send out literally thousands of postcards, right, a month.
Yeah.
And we found out it wasn't as effective as just sending out, a couple hundred handwritten letters per month versus a couple thousands of postcards, right? And another way to do it is, once you get your list, is you can call them. Pick up the phone. There's skip tracing services. You put in their information, they'll pull up numbers for you, and you just dial it. Pick up the phone, dial it. And of course, you can get fancy. You can get these automatic dialers and stuff like that. But honestly, if you're just starting out, like, just do the work. Like, pick up the phone, dial it by hand. Yes, it is slower, but guess what? It's gonna get you in that process. Because I feel like when investors start out, they feel like they gotta have all these fancy gadgets. I gotta have this, I gotta have that, and it costs money. Thinking, man, I don't even have any money. Like, how am I gonna start? Or like, I don't have this system. It just seems so overwhelming. It's like, just get down to the basics. Like, call them. Someone will pick up the phone. If not, you leave a message, right? If they don't call you back, call them again. Call them again. If it's the right number, or you send them a text. Nowadays, people communicate through texting, right? Send them a text. So taking action. So if you're not sending them letters, you can call them, right? You can call them, and if you don't want to call them, right, go knock on the door, right? Go knock on the door, because you can find out, even though if they don't necessarily, if obviously if they don't live in town, right? But if they do, if the owners live in town, which you can find out if they are, just go knock on the door and like, hey, my name is, and I think you and I did this last year, right?
Yeah.
And knock and just introduce yourself and see if they ever thought about, selling their house. Just plain and simple. And I think people are scared of people these days, right?
I agree. Yeah.
They're afraid to talk to people. They'd rather be behind the screen and communicate. But just get face to face, belly to belly, because
you got to.
You got to, because you got to realize that even in this, you're in sales of some form. I'm just like, I hate sales, right? But the thing is, we're all in sale, right? Because it goes down to, even when you're dating your wife, you're selling yourself so that you're a good match. She's doing the same thing to you, right? You're selling yourself, right?
Yeah.
You go to a job interview, you're selling like, hey, I'm going to be a good employee for you, right? So when you look around, everything is associated with sales. You go to the store, they're trying to sell you something. You're looking at the internet, they're selling you something. So in all aspect, it's you're in sales. So you just got to get face to face, get in front of them.
Yeah, just talking to people, because that's how we got our deal for another location. We didn't look for it. We didn't ask about it. I just talked to people who come into our business, and it's like, hey, what do you do? Where are you from? Like, why? Like, oh, you're not from Billings. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Shelby. Oh, great. What do you do up there? Well, I own a business. Great. Oh, yeah. Also, my daughter-in-law owns a business just like your guys' business. Oh, really? Tell me more. Like, it was really just a conversation. It wasn't even like us being like, hey, would you sell us your business? Do you have something available? It's just like, by the natural conversation and getting to know people, like,
right,
face to face.
Absolutely.
That's how we got the deal.
And then that's a great point, because obviously those when you're sending out letters and calling and knocking doors, those good. But like you mentioned earlier, it's about referrals, right? If you let other people know what you do, right? Some of friends of a friend of a friend, well, it's like, oh yeah, Jeremy's looking for another business to buy, or he's looking for another rental, because
Hmm.
your conversation, you're talking, letting people know what you do. And I'm happy to tell people what I do. I mean, because people like to talk about themselves too, right? So you ask them
Hmm.
what they
Hmm.
do, they're going to ask you what you do, right? So, um, yeah, just get out there, let people know what it is you're doing. And even if you're brand new and you haven't even bought a house, yes, I'm an investor, I buy properties, right?
Yeah.
Just claim it. It's funny, like years ago, I think you've seen my one of my profile picture, I have a shirt that says I buy houses, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's a red shirt, it says I buy houses. And honestly, I was wearing that shirt before I even bought like my, like my rental properties, right? I was like, I buy houses, right? And it's interesting how, obviously, you got taxes, but there's also the mentalness too, right? The mindset and the energy you put out, right? If you claim something, like if you speak it, it will come to existence, right? And it's just like in the Bible, when God says, let there be light, then there was light, right? And so there's
Hmm.
many instances where you speak things into existence, right? The things that you want to do, you got to speak it, and it will come, right? You speak it, like I buy houses. I wasn't even buying any houses, but I was
Yeah.
wearing a shirt that says I buy houses, right?
Do you know what that is in your brain? Do you know what that's called?
That what is it called?
It's your SAS system.
What is
So
it?
there is something so that what you're talking about, this is a kind of a nerdy thing, but what you're talking about is the part of your brain in your brain is called the SAS. And I forget what it stands for, but it's the part of your brain that filters in and filters out information.
Hmm.
So when you say like, "Oh, I buy houses," and you start to think about that, you actually are telling your SAS is at work where it starts noticing, okay, here's more opportunity, or here's a house I could buy. So it's the same thing when you buy a car for the first
Right.
time, and you're
Yes.
like, you buy a Toyota Tundra or whatever, and you're like, now you notice all the Toyota Tundras on the road. That's your
Yes.
SAS system filtering in that stuff and filtering out other cars because you didn't notice it
Mm.
before. So the same kind of thing, like if you look for opportunities, it's not like they magically come to you, but like you actually start seeing them. Like, wow,
Hmm.
they are everywhere. They're everywhere.
Right.
Once you start
Yes.
like saying, I buy houses, and it's like, oh, great, there's a house for sale over here. Wow, let
Hmm.
me go look at that.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely. It's like saying like what you focus on expands, right?
mhm,
And
yeah.
here's a true thing too. It's funny because once you get some, you start to see it. And it's like, when you were single, it's hard to find a girlfriend, right? It's like, oh man. But when you actually get a girlfriend, it's like all these women just come out of the woodwork. It's like, where were you when I was single? So it's kind of same thing. I had to tease my
Yeah.
wife about that sometimes. But yeah, it's right that SAS. I think it's called like the reticular activator system. Is that what that is?
Mm,
So,
yeah, it
something
might
like
be.
that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like yeah, and that's the thing.
RAS.
Yeah.
See
So
if I can
you're
find
like,
it.
you start to see that, and it's so true. If like what you focus on expands, you start to look for opportunities. Opportunities will show up, right?
Hmm.
And so back to like, how do I find these homes, right? So, I'm doing letters, I'm
Hmm.
making phone calls, I'm knocking on doors, I'm talking to people, right? Now, keep in mind, at the same time, you got to be doing your homework, right? You got to be studying your market, right? You got to be looking on day, so that if a deal comes to you, if it's a good deal or not. Like, how do you know it's a good deal, right?
Hmm.
Because you don't know unless you study the market, right? It's 'cause you
Hmm.
hear stories like people go to garage sales, right? And they buy gems, they buy rocks, right?
Hmm.
The people selling them, they're like, oh, this just looks like a rock. But to someone who's trained and knows what they're looking for, they see that rock and it's like, oh, man, that's a rare gem. This gem is worth thousands of dollars. And
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
because they're trained to see it. And it's like when one people look one house and another guy looks at it, one sees like a piece of dump, and the other person sees like, oh man, this is a great opportunity, right? And that's the
Hmm.
same thing, because if you study the market, you know what you're looking for. Like one man's treasure is another man's trash, right?
Yeah.
So for them, it may look like trash, but you know what you're looking for. So it's a treasure to you. It's like, okay, yeah, this house, like people say, oh man, this is a piece of dump. And when I see dumps, man, I see money. Like I see dollar signs, like, oh, the worse it looks, the better it is, right? And the same thing, like when you're buying business, the worse the business is run and they're not making money, they just want to get rid of it. Like, okay, but because you know how to run a business, you
Mhm.
can see that failing businesses, you know what? I can I can turn this business around and I can make something. Like I know this business could be profitable. They just don't know how to run it.
Right. Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then that's
it's
the
mostly
same.
leadership. Yeah.
Yes. And that's the same thing when when we study the market, we know what we're looking for and we see it, we know that it's going to be a deal, right? It's like, okay,
Right.
so so here you are, you're letting people know, you're sending letters, you're calling them, you're door knocking, right? And and that's how you start to get leads come in, right? um you know and like I'll be honest, like most of my business now has been from referrals, right? Because after been in this been in the game for a while, people know what you're doing, so then they
Mhm.
start to like, hey Quito, I've got a friend that you know that wants to sell their house, or hey Quito, I know somebody, oh, I saw this house or whatever, and they're just because they know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
so that definitely helps. Is initially to get off the ground, you got to do some legwork. You gotta you gotta be willing to put in the work in order to get the results. And I think people have the microwave mentality that, man, if I don't do a deal in 6 months, I'm a failure. Like it's not going to work, right?
Mhm.
It takes time because we've gotten some deals where the sellers had our letter for about a year. It's like, oh yeah, I've been getting your letters, and it's been sitting in there, and so now they call. It's like, hey Keto, are you still looking to buy some homes? It's like, yes, I'm looking to buy, right? So,
Yeah.
but they had they had my they have our letters for like over a year. So
Wow. Long time. That's a long. So
yeah.
follow up, follow up, follow up,
Yeah,
huh?
follow up. And so I'll go back to the letter. We don't just send a letter one time, right? We send the same letter to the same owner 3 to 4, I think like every quarter they get a letter from us. So that's 4 times a year.
Mhm. Okay.
They're getting 4 times a year, the letter from us. And here's the thing. Once they respond to us and they talk to us, right? And they may not have any interest, maybe they're just kind of curious. Guess what? They go into our database for a follow-up. So
Mhm.
now we got their information. We follow up, you know, every other month or so. So they'll still get that letter from us,
Mhm.
and then they get a phone call from us. Or if we went to visit them, we'll visit them. Like my wife loves to cook, so
Mhm.
she makes egg rolls, right? And that's the thing I don't talk too much about, but that's what you build relationships. Whether you're giving egg rolls, whether you're giving food or something, but you do it on a consistent basis. You're building a relationship, because for us, it's just not like a one and done. Okay, I'm done. It's like I'm building a
Mhm.
relationship over time, and because they may not be ready, but they may know somebody that wants to sell. But now
Mhm.
I know that they
Mhm.
have some interest, so I'll just keep building that relationship.
Yeah.
And we had one guy that we bought a property from. Literally, was an older gentleman. We bought a property from him, but we just kept in touch with him, kept in touch with him, kept in touch with him. And over the holiday, unfortunately, he passed away.
Mhm.
Right. But but now his daughter reached out to us. Who knows where it's going to go? But
Mhm.
the point is that we just keep in touch with them, keep in touch with them you know until you can't keep in touch with them anymore. So just continue, and you should also be growing your database, right? Just keep growing it, and just growing it, because it's not they may not be ready now, but they may be
Yeah.
ready 3 years from now. And as you know, real estate is a long game. So I plan
Mhm.
on doing this for until the Lord calls me home. That's my intention anyways, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll just continue to do this, and I'll just continue to grow. Like even doing this, this YouTube. I mean, this is a growth opportunity for me, because it's something that I wanted to do. I've been uncomfortable about doing it. And like So I was like, you know what, just do it. And here we are.
That's great. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really learned a lot. There's some things I can even do on here. Like I know for sure my buy box is like not, I have like an idea, but it's not solid. So like even for me, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, I gotta go back and get my buy box in. And then I just gotta start doing something like letters, text, phone call, door knocking, something consistently. Like if I'm preaching atomic habits, I gotta start doing something little by little every single time
Right.
or every single week.
Absolutely. And it's just like what we're doing here, like every Saturday, we're recording these calls every Saturday. And we've
Hmm.
been doing this for how many Saturdays now? Four
About a
Saturdays?
month. Yeah.
About a
Hmm.
month. Okay. See, so we're building this habit and we're going to continue to do this, and this show will evolve, will expand, we'll get guests on here, and the production value will improve, right?
Yeah.
So down the
Yep.
road, but I'm not in a hurry. It's like, okay, I'm just going to do what I can do now and just do it, just get started. And that's the point too, right? Like, just
Hmm.
get started in doing something, just moving in the right direction. Don't worry about perfection, focus on progress, right?
Hmm.
Like if you did something now, it's better than what you did yesterday, right? Because you talked about the atomic habits. You talked about, like, I remember you talked about, like, even you go to even if you just drive up to the parking lot, just that side to drive to the parking lot, that's better than you not even driving there, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then next you drive to the parking lot, then get out of your car, walk into the gym, right? Just walk in, even if you don't lift anything. But that's progression, right? And then
Hmm.
eventually get to a point where you drive to the parking lot, you get into a gym, you pick up some weights. Now you start doing some exercises, and then you just start repeating that cycle, and then you get better and you get more consistent and you improve. And that's the same thing, no matter what you want to do in your life, whether it's starting a business, whether you want to invest in real estate or even investing in stocks or whatever form of investment you want to do. Like, just take that habit and just start building up on it. Just do something, and and do it imperfectly.
Hmm.
I like, so many times, like, people having their mind, because when they see other people do it and they make it look so easy, they make it look so smooth, and you feel
Uh-huh.
like, man, I can't do that. I mean, just prime example, even with this YouTube, I was intimidated, right? Because I see all these other YouTubers, and they're doing, they've got all these fancy, and like, oh man, I'm not gonna ever get to that point, right? But the thing
Hmm.
is, that intimidated me. And same thing when you're starting out, like investing, like, I'm not going to be able to own 10 rentals or 20 rentals or whatever, right?
Hmm.
I just want to, like, just just start getting your first rental. Just focus on that. And
Yeah.
then once you get that, get your second, get your third, and you're always going to continue to learn every property, because I'm always learning. Every property is different, every situation is different. I mean, there's times where I get bitten, and it's like, man,
Hmm.
I didn't see it coming, whatever that is. Like, I'm starting a new project right now I've never done before. Very intimidating, but you know what? I'll just take one step at a time, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah. That's exciting. That's cool. Well, great, Keto. Yeah, that's a lot of good stuff there. I need to take some stuff. And then also, if you're in Billings, right, this week, we're having another meetup. So
Oh,
if you're in
yes, yes.
Billings, come and see us, meet up, talk about business, investing, how to get deals, helping you out with that.
Right. And it's gonna be on Thursday,
Yep.
February 8th, on
Yes.
Thursday.
Let me just
So
make sure my calendar. Yeah, this 8th, February 8th, this Thursday at the Sure Stay Inn. That's where
sure,
we're going.
stay in. That's right. Come join us. We're learning, we're growing. I mean, it's really informal. There's nothing like um don't be afraid to show up, because we all want to learn, we all want to help each other out, and it's a great way to connect with other like-minded people. So,
Absolutely.
all
Yeah.
right. Well, Jeremy, thank you for our conversations. I appreciate it. And I look forward to every Saturday when we do these calls.
Yeah, me too. All right. We'll see you later.
All right, we'll see you next time.